Hey, this is Chuck Billy from Testament, and I'm blowing it up right here on Capital Chaos.
So, who came up with the name Orchid, and what's that all about?
I guess I came up with the name Orchid. I mean, it was a Sabbath song, instrumental, and that the whole idea of the band was to kind of be a tip of the hat to Sabbath. I mean, honestly, like when we started the band, I just thought it would be a bar band, and we would drink beers and write some Sabbathy songs, and that would be it. We'd fight eventually and break up in a year or whatever, So anything that happened past that was. Sometimes I feel like, we're kind of. We weren't prepared for anything to happen past that, so. But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely Sabbath influenced, and that's, was the whole trip.
Yeah, your new album is Into the Mouths of Madness. Who came up with that title, and who did you work on that album with?
So the Mouths of Madness title just came from kind of a song title. And oftentimes I'll just, when I'm writing, I'll kind of just say, a couple words, and it'll be like a working title. And sometimes it changes, and other times it just kind of sticks because I can't think of anything else, and I end up writing the lyrics around the title. So that's kind of, Mark liked it as a title, and we recorded the album with Will Storkson, who who I went to high school with, and I think you knew probably just from the kind of Haight-Ashbury music scene and like that whole trip in the through the 80s and the 90s, the thrash metal scene. So we recorded with him, and it's cool. Bill's just a fan of heavy rock, and for sure Sabbath, and Trouble, and all that stuff. Early Metallica, and then. Just we all liked lots of different kinds of music, but he was kind of an awesome person to work with from the beginning because he just really got it, knew what we were trying to go for.
So I remember you as far back as Suicide Shake, and then now you're in Orchid. Yeah. What else had you been doing musically between that time?
I think after that I was in a band called Sway that were kind of like. Humble Pie and the Stones, and 70s kind of retro rock, but more of the R&B influence stuff, and 60s stuff, with some guys from San Francisco. And then, man, I didn't play music for a little while. Mark and I started playing together in another band that was kind of like more 60s and 70s influence, like pop stuff. I mean, like almost like Bowie and the Beatles and stuff like that. But it's funny, it's like my whole life I feel like the music that other than kind of being a heavy metal kid and getting into that, the music that I grew up on, that my parents listened to, it's like kind of Sabbath, Zeppelin, Bowie, the Stones, the Beatles, like all those kind of, and they've just kind of revolved like around, different combinations of them, Sure. And there's stuff like the Stooges and, the Dead Boys and like kind of 70s punk stuff and kind of early proto-metal stuff, was always influence, and the thrash metal thing was huge for both of us, like growing up as kids in San Francisco. It was like the one kind of music that I think we all could kind of own a little bit, so that was a big influence. I feel like that there's still a lot of that in Orchid, like for sure early Metallica and even like Blue Cheer and stuff like that. So sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of how since then we were doing that, and then I kind of quit playing music for probably 7 years and kind of focused on art and tattooing, and then one day I got a hair up my ass and decided I wanted to do like a heavy rock band. I heard Pentagram for the first time when those demos First Days Here were released, and I was just like super inspired and made me want to play music again, honestly. So that's kind of how that started, and I just started like digging deep and getting into a lot of like obscure 60s and early 70s bands like Iron Claw and Jerusalem and all these kind of Atomic Rooster and Cactus and Buffalo and all these weird obscure 70s bands that no one had really, they never made it, but man, there were some great songs, and I just kind of started digging deep and realizing that there was all this stuff that I never knew about and wanted to start a band like that. So
well, what was your source? Where would you find all these obscure artists? Just digging through record store bins?
honestly, the one cool thing, the internet's kind of an enemy of music in certain ways, but also like a friend of music for people creatively, I think. And also just to it's returned kind of music to a grassroots level, like stuff like this, right? But YouTube was just a huge trail to follow, because if you found one of those bands, there'd be other people that knew about them that were like basically turning their record collections into digital format, and they'd post a picture, and one thing would kind of lead to another, and I just discovered all these bands that way, probably through starting at Pentagram. And then and back when MySpace was going really strong, there was like a guy that did like a classic underground rock thing, and he would just put records up every day, and it was really cool.
Wow.
That kind of it's cool that shit exists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
It seemed like you had some instant success in Europe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we signed to this small German kind of doom label called Church Within, and I think, we had, instant success is funny. Like, instant success, like you sell 5,000 records is like, I don't know if that's like instant success in the scheme of the, real world, but for about, 4 guys that, were approaching middle age that just wanted to start a bar band and play some Sabbathy songs and get drunk together, it was probably instant success. You're
not on tour at the moment, or are you on tour?
We got back from tour probably a month and a half ago, and we did 26 shows with 1 day off. And it was, man, it's pretty humbling. It really makes you realize what it's like to be a working band in that way. None of us had ever done anything like that. We're on a nightliner with 17 guys, and you're hoping you're getting a shower half the time, and it's just like you start to kind of lose track of what's even going on. But we came home, we made it, and we're doing this record release show here tonight, and then we're playing like a thing called Valley of the Buzzards. It's in Bodega Bay, which is like a vintage chopper show, an outdoor thing. That's August 17th. That should be pretty cool. And then we're off again until November, and then we go back to Europe for 15 shows. So that'll be shorter and a little easier. It's cool.
Finally, do you have any anything that you'd like to say to anybody that might be watching this, that's a fan of yours, or some further insight into you and Orchid?
I mean, just thank you, kind of, really, because for us, this is just totally came from left field. So, like it's getting signed to Nuclear Blast, and the company of bands that we're with on there, and the chance to do something like that is huge. And like, Mark, I've known Mark since I was 18, the guitar player, and he was in Liquid Sky. I remember that band. Yeah, sure. And it's just like, we've been doing this our whole lives, and so much of music and doing anything in music or success, any kind of success, is just about timing, doing something that's relevant at a time to what maybe people are interested in. And, it's just, you kind of do what you do. Like, I had no idea that there was any kind of scene for like retro 70s heavy rock at all, like when we started this band, so sometimes you just luck out, and you're kind of like swimming when the waves coming behind you or something. So just thank you, really. Thanks for people being supportive.